message that the internet is
4:04. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. 1.2, adopt the, is there a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda as posted.
The second,
I will second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa?
Aye.
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. Agenda 2.1, consideration of approval of for Northern United Humboldt Charter School. 2.2, of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Siskiyou. 0502 0515 529 0614 617 and 0618. 0.3, consideration of approval of minutes for the May 25th board meetings. 2.4, considerations, hires, leaves, and change of assignments. And 2, consideration of approval of Williams uniform complaint report for NU Siskiyou. Are there any questions about any of those?
one comment, and this is actually for Kirk. Kirk, I guess if you just hold Brianna to sign tomorrow, either that, or I guess I could just have Rosemary. You know, since normally Brianna signs
Right.
the minutes, but it makes more sense for you to just sign them. Since
Should
she's
just
not
have her sign them tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's
It's just, technically, she's not approving them, yeah.
No.
So maybe I'll just have. Okay,
All right. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the consent agenda as posted.
A second
I will second.
and seconded. All those in favor? Melissa?
Aye.
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. 3.1, comments by the public. Under this item, is invited to address the board regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Please keep your comments concise, brief, and limited to 3 minutes. The board is not allowed under law to take action on matters that are not on. Should comments from the public pertain to a charge or complaint against Northern United Humboldt Charter School or Northern United Siskiyou, the board encourages the speaker to utilize the school's written procedures to pursue the matter. The public will have an opportunity to all agenda items as those items are heard. Hearing no other or no comments, we will move on to 4.1, public hearing 2425, education protection account resolution, planned expenditures for Northern United Humboldt. At I will open the public hearing.
and I'll just say, this education protection account requires a public hearing, so can comment on how we say we're going to be spending these funds. And so we received $60,376 in EPA funds, and we will instructional services, and part of around this particular pot of money is the money is not on any administrative salaries, administrator salaries.
Are there any questions or comments? And hearing none, I will close this session for 10. Moving on to 4.2, open it at 4:10. It is 2024-2025 Education Protection Account and planned expenditures for NUCS.
The same thing, Siskiyou will receive $23,282. We also spend on instructional services. It's just salaries. I think that's where it goes. And again, we're making sure spending any of it on administrator salaries.
Any questions?
No.
4.2 is at 4:11. Moving on to 4. We'll open that session at 4:11. 2024-2025 final budget adoption, New Humboldt.
Do you want to do it now?
It isn't they do it, but no point.
No. Yeah, I was gonna ask that too. So, Kelly prepared for the budgets, so that to give you guys information on both the Humboldt and Siskiyou budget. And, today, right now is the public hearing for the budgets, but tomorrow's meeting is where we actually vote on that. So the whole purpose of the public is to let any members of the public give any comments on the budget. They need to review it. It's been posted on our website. I don't know if you guys want her to talk about it now.
You guys typically have people that show up or no?
No.
Okay, well, you can talk about it anytime to me, I don't mind. Just want to give people a fair chance.
What would you like to do?
Do you want me to talk about it now, so then do the, before approving it tomorrow?
I'm okay.
And then if you had any questions that you thought of overnight.
There you go.
Okay, so I guess it's my computer, right? I was trying to order this one. I guess it's this one that I would share. Kelly sent me the presentation, and so I'm going to share my screen. That's what I'm going to do.
Do you need us to turn the lights?
Oh, that's
I can.
fine.
We can.
Yes.
Yes.
Me as well.
If you're using,
Oh, yeah, you can see a little bit.
Mhm. Yes, you want. Our internet is unstable. No. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see that, Kirk?
Yep.
You want it in the. It's not the one to do that. Do you want it in, oh, there's Jerry. Hi, Jerry.
Okay.
and in a t-shirt, his house.
If you wanna go to the next slide, Sherry. Well, simply because that's how the agenda is made. And then the next slide.
Jerry, we're on 4.3.
So some of the information for 23-24, because this is like our final 23-24 closeout. And budget adoption information for 24-25. So our projections from 23-24 as to match our. So our ADA is 308.63 and our unduplicated count are socioeconomically disadvantaged or homeless and foster youth, and our English learners, 229. I carried that forward into 24, 25, 26, 27. And then I did, to be conservative, lower our ADA bit, for my projections for the out years to 301.8. And then the next slide I included, that goes over breaking up our LCFF revenue for 23-24 for Humboldt. So our total LCFF revenue is $4,374,804. And as you can see, our supplemental and concentration funding is the $915,510. And then the average daily attendance that was used in there in that bottom 308.63. I thought this graphic is also kind of helpful because we'll be talking about the LCAP later, which is information. We want to go to the next one. And then the information, except for to be for 24-25. CFF funding for 24-25 is $4,343,700. Our supplemental and concentration amount is $928,800. And then the ADA that I used to create these projections is the 301. And then on the next slide, this is kind of like our pie charts that show our revenue and our expenditure totals. Included on the bottom, our total ending fund balance as well as our unrestricted ending fund. They're charter school is somewhat like our reserves, since we don't have the reserve fund like normal school districts do. In total, as you can see, 74% of our revenue, most major revenue sources are LCFF revenue. And then we're gonna be ending the year with our total ending fund balance of 2.2 million. And our unrestricted funds or reserves is 1,838,426. And that's 9.4%. And on 24-25, so as you can see for 25, again, our LCFF is about 74% of our total revenues. I also should have mentioned for 23-24, that's the closeout for most of our COVID are pretty much going to be complete by the end of 23-24. I also spent down our learning grant, just be preventative because of the new requirements around the needs assessment that are going to be coming forward that has to do with that grant. So I went ahead and spent it down in the current year. So then that way we utilize the funds for these and for some of our intervention program. And that way, worry about that going forward. So in 24-25, this is kind of like our spread out all of our additional grants included. Our projection is 1.07% for next year, which is a significant from the current year was 8.22. So it's about 7% reduction. I did use the normal SSC amounts that they recommended currently for which is a little bit different than the projections I included at second interim because I had for Siskiyou and I did a 1% for Humboldt. So there is a bit of an increase. That's a state level. There's been a lot of that in the governor and the legislative's office. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what they decide on. For now, I use the May revised 1 for 24-25. We'll be ending the year. Our total ending balance at 1,719,592. And we are deficit spending a little bit, so our unrestricted ending balance goes down 496,639, and that's 23.5%. And then on to 25. So our LCFF revenue for 25 is 75% of our total revenues for the year. Most of our expenditures are, again, our highest amounts are our salaries and benefits. And then, of course, small amount for services and other operating expenditures and supplies. We spending a little bit again in 24 or 25, 26 with our current projections. Ending fund balance is 1,169,513, and our balance or our reserves would be 1,087,836. That is 16.9%. So we move on to 26, 27. Our LCFF would be 76% of our total revenues. And again, our greatest expenses are our salaries and benefits. And then our total ending fund balance is 878,528. And our total unrestricted ending balance 39,995 or 13.3%. And I also wanted to include some reductions for 26, 27, just to make sure that we were maintaining the ending fund balance. As a precursor to that, though, I also didn't include this. So if we do manage to get additional, if we do have students incoming because we're starting our new now, then we may not end up having to actually make those reductions. Didn't want to overstate our revenues in case it didn't happen. So it was possible. And that's that.
Are there any questions, comments?
The only question I have, what's the difference between the total ending fund and the unrestricted ending? What's the difference? This is two different balances.
So our total ending fund balance includes all of our money. And part of our funds has what we call restricted ending balance, for pots of money that have extremely specific spending requirements. So ultimately wouldn't be able to use those if we had a time of need where, we had to defer that. We couldn't necessarily count on those funds. Unrestricted is basically saying it doesn't designated spending requirements. I mean, obviously with legality, we already but those we can use in time of need as our ending fund.
For example, there's one fund that we get, it's lottery money, and the pots of lottery money we get is restricted. And it can only be used on curriculum like that. So like you couldn't use it for salary. So that's why she pulls out the things that are they're very specific on what you could spend that money on.
That makes sense.
That's why she kind of set, so you know.
Any other questions?
I would just like to say that, wow, I'm really impressed. I really appreciate this breakdown and a glimpse into the future based upon what we know. So many things are subject to change, but this idea of where we're headed and the visual graphic presentation of all that. It's really impressive. So I, for one, and good job.
Thank you.
Melissa, do you have any comments or questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Trying your best to make it easy for us to comprehend. It's a lot of information, and I have to say, even though I've been here for, about 4 years or something, it's still a little bit tricky for me to kind of understand how it all works, but I can see that it's like, okay, I get a little more every year, so thank you.
And I would like to thank you, the time that has this and the end product, so to speak, is very easy to follow. Thank you. And hearing comments or questions, I'm going to close this public hearing at 25. At 4.4, we will open a public hearing at 4:25. And it is public hearing 2024-25 budget adoption for NUCS here.
Kelly, but this is before you get started. Put it in presentation mode in PowerPoint.
So
Which tab is it?
on
Yeah. Is
in
it
the left-hand corner, there's usually it says start slideshow from beginning.
from beginning?
But it, or just from current.
Now. I should have done a current slide, but yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I kept trying to figure out where that was. I'm slides now. I've like forgotten how to do PowerPoint.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You can still use it to work.
PowerPoint into slides.
Oh,
So thank you. Start with them. So here's just a chart that kind of shows their EPA and unduplicated people count again. I went straight flat with Siskiyou with 116.41, which was their P2 from 23. And I carried that over for 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27. And then one was their unduplicated people count for 23, 24. And again, I utilized that. My projections for 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26. So I did the same chart for them, funds. So this is for 23, 24. Their total LCFF funding should be $1,703,704. And then the concentration amount for that is 363,595. And then left for their APA, you can see the 116.41. Then for 24, 25, their total LCFF funding is 1,722,534, and their supplemental concentration is 368,017. And again, their APA that I used is 0.41. 23, 24 versus. They did still have some of their COVID grants for 24 that we will be completely spending down at the end of this year. So for 24, 25, they have their ESSER 3 funds left that we're utilizing this year. I also made down the Learning Recovery Block Grant in Siskiyou as well. So then we could also deal with the additional legislation coming around the needs assessment of that. So their LCFF is 78% of their total revenues. Again, their greatest expenditures are salaries and benefits, and you'll see on budget, their services and other operating expenditures is a little bit higher is in Humboldt. And a great portion of this is due to the MOU that we have in where they're paying a portion of like my salary, Sherry's salary, our employees that we share between the two schools.
remember in Siskiyou, as salary, because all the salaries are paid for over here, and then they do it. It's like contracted services, so that's why it pops up in there, even though it really is salary.
So their total ending fund balance is 927.58, and of that, their unrestricted ending balance is 816,076, or 28.6%. I know a lot of times when people talk about taking it as a percentage, so that's why I wanted to put that on there, so that you guys would know exactly how much that percent. And then for 24-25, that revenue is projected to be 71%. And then you see courses is at 24%. This shifted a little bit over there just because they received the community school implementation grant, and overall, it's such a large portion of their revenue, whereas compared to Humboldt, it's not. And so it makes their revenue percentages look a little bit skewed. And so, again, their expenditures, their greatest expenses are their salaries and benefits, and then right behind that is services and other operating, which is some of the salaries and benefits for them as well. Their total ending fund balance is projected to be $1,046,888. And then their unrestricted ending balance is $696,751. I did want to mention with the SISU ending balance that we put in audit adjustments to accrue the charter in lieu for SISU that we had found that we hadn't received. So that is included in their ending balance, but it's not actually cash that we have on hand for them. So it looks a little bit better than it actually is in real life.
You guys remember that, right? The
Yeah.
districts that have to pay us directly for the students that we enroll. And one of the districts has given us some money, but they still owe us money, and the other district owes us money. And so when you do the budget, you have to account for that you are expecting to receive this revenue. So that's why Kelly's saying it's in here on the books, but it's not actually cash we've received because we haven't gotten it yet. So this makes it seem better than it is if there was some sort of, if we had some sort of emergency and needed cash, we don't actually have all that cash.
And can I ask, what happens if the other districts don't pony up their share?
Well, then that ball is in our court, what we want to do about that. We could sue them. They are legally obligated to give us the money, and they haven't yet, which the one district that has started paying us, basically, we discussed the idea of a payment plan. These are small little school districts, and if they had not budgeted for this,
Right.
it could take some time. And I feel like the one district did a real, good faith effort of giving us a big chunk of what they owe us this year, with the expectation next year we'll get the rest. The other one, we're still waiting on. We have gone back and forth with them a couple times. The county office has gotten involved. And so we're kind of just waiting to see what happens at this
Is there a
point.
timeline with them of some kind?
Well, it's already way past.
Well, no,
They're
but
obligated to give it to us every
right, well,
month.
of course, but
So they're fine.
at some point, you're
Yes,
gonna have to say, okay, well,
5
this is the
years?
time.
Is that
Yeah,
what you
they've
said?
never given it to us. Yeah, we've been this was our 6th year of operation. The first year didn't count because the funding doesn't work that way. So there's 5 years, but nobody knew until this last year that they owed it.
Okay,
Well, I don't know what they knew.
right,
We didn't know.
we didn't know.
Right, but at some point, you have to say, okay,
Mhm.
we're giving this amount of time, and there's gotta be that kind of timeline. I mean, that's just being responsible.
I think we were hoping that we'll receive, it's the end of the fiscal year, so they should be paying out all of their expenditures by June 30th. And so hopefully they will. If they don't, then that's something that we'll have to discuss.
And we got the impression from the county office in the last correspondence from them to the district, we were CC'd on it, that she was going to, like, if need be, in the back end somehow transfer the money, which is what you guys remember, that's what happens at Humboldt County Office of Ed. That's what they do it behind the scenes.
Anyways, I just wanted to mention that about the ending fund balance so that
Mhm.
people knew we don't actually have that cash.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, next year.
Correct. And then, so for 25-26, their LCFF funding formula, as you see, it jumps to 83% of their projected revenues. Their total ending fund balance goes down to 780,974. We are deficit spending. And then their unrestricted ending balance goes down to 595,076 for 24.8%. And then in 26-27, their LCFF revenue again, 83% of their revenues. You can see their total expenditures, still salaries and benefits, and some of our contracted services are our greatest expenses. And then our total ending fund balance is projected to be $631,067. And our unrestricted ending balances is projected at $520,233, or that 22.3%. I did not have to make any reductions to Siskiyou's budget to get to these amounts. They were spending okay to where I left all of our current staff.
Are there any questions or comments for Kelly? Melissa, do you have any?
I guess the only statement I would like to say is just those numbers are so much different than Humboldt's numbers, so much smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I noticed that.
It's because Humboldt has 3 times the number of students,
Yeah.
so therefore 3 times the the revenue. And that's why, like Kelly pointed out, things make such a big difference in Siskiyou because the budget is so much smaller. So like when we get a grant or something in Siskiyou, it really skews the revenue.
I also forgot to include, I did include the Golden State Pathways grant as well.
Yeah.
So the state revenue skew was because of the community school implementation and the Golden
I
State.
was gonna ask about that, yeah. And I'll talk about that in my report, but both schools got several grants, are being awarded several grants, so I'll talk about that.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments or questions, I will close this at 4:36. Moving on to 4.5, we'll open it at 4:36. Public hearing, 2024-2025 budget overview for parents and local control and accountability plan with 2023-2024 annual update for NU Humboldt.
Man, that's a lot. Those are a lot of words. These plans are a lot of words. So you guys remember, we have the local control and accountability plan. That's what LCAP stands for. And every year, the school has to update it or create it in the, like this year, this is a whole new plan because they're 3-year plans. And so the school year that just is ending, that was the 3rd and final year of that plan. So this is now a whole new 3-year plan. And every school in the state is required to do an LCAP. And basically it is the roadmap for the school of where you want to go. It's basically doing a big analysis of all of your data. Where are you performing well? You know, what are the things that you need to improve in? You get all the feedback from, you know, every educational partner there is that you can, parents, staff, students. And based on all of the school's data and all of the input you get, you create this plan. And the plan is kind of what is going to drive us over the next 3 years of how are we going to improve in the things we want to improve in? What are we going to do to maintain the things that we're already doing well? And the plan not only has to say like what your goals are and what actions you're going to take to address those goals, but you also have to put the revenue in, the expenditures in. You have to put how much money you're going to spend on each of these actions. And so that's kind of what makes it unique, I think, in comparison to other plans sometimes that schools have to do. This actually puts like how much things are going to cost in there too. And so there's 3 parts to the LCAP. There's the budget overview for parents, and that's just kind of the first 2 pages. And it's kind of or maybe 3 pages. It's kind of a simplified overview of the money portion of the LCAP, like how much, all of the budget piece of it. And then the next part of the overall thing is the annual update. And what that is it's like I said, we just are ending a 3-year plan. The annual update is kind of updating everybody about how did we do? You know, we set these goals for ourselves in the last plan. How did we do? And that's what that annual update is, kind of updating everybody. And then the next part, the LCAP itself, the LCAP proper, is the new plan for moving forward. So the first year of it is next school year, 24-25. In that, we have, in Humboldt, we have 2 goals. One is the first one is related to like all things academics, I would say, so student performance. And then the second goal is more climate and culture. So, you know, how we're getting students engaged and how we're getting families involved, having a safe environment, those kinds of things. Those are our 2 goals. And then you see in there for each goal, we list actions on how we're going to address those goals. So that's the LCAP in a nutshell. Any questions?
Great job, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will close this public hearing at 4:41. And move on to 4.6 at 4:41. Public hearing, 2024-2025 budget overview for parents and local control and accountability plan with 2023-2024 annual update for NUCS.
Okay. All the same things that I said count, with the exception of, with Siskiyou, we have 3 goals. And we really changed them quite a bit this year. So the first goal is accomplished students. And that, again, is kind of an academic one. The second goal is a supportive environment. And the third goal is empowered community. And so those 2 last goals, goal 2 and 3, are similar to the Humboldt's goal number 2, kind of just separated out. Something I didn't say before is, but maybe it goes without saying, this is a public hearing. So this is just one last opportunity for the public to give input into this before it's actually approved. And the approval happens at tomorrow's meeting, hopefully. But today it's just, again, another opportunity for the public to give any kind of input on this. Something else I'll say is, one of the things we do to get input as we're working on creating these plans is, you guys remember in both Humboldt and Siskiyou, we have a parent advisory committee. And we also bring these drafts to them before they come here. So it's just another way that we try to get input from our educational partners.
Any questions or comments? And hearing none, we will close this at 4:43. Moving on to action items. 5.1, approval of education protection account resolution and 2023-2024 EPA planned expenditures for NU Humboldt.
Good job, Rosemary. Your tongue's gonna need a break after this. So you might be thinking like deja vu, wait a second, we just had the EPA a minute ago, but that was just the public hearing. This is the section where we actually vote on it. And this is just an odd little thing. You know, I mentioned that the LCAP and the budget, we have the public hearing at this meeting, but tomorrow we vote on them. And that's in statute. That's required, that you don't have the public hearing and the vote on the same meeting. But that is not the case for the EPA, which is why we have the public hearing and then now we're voting on it. So remember when we were in the public hearing, I said we're not allowed to use these monies on the administrator salary. That's part of what's in this resolution. Basically, the resolution piece of this is you resolving that you agree to follow the law on what is required for spending this money. And so you'll see that in the resolution. And so that's one part of this. And then the other part is the planned expenditures. So that's what we had the public hearing on earlier is we in Humboldt will receive 60,376 for this next school year, and we will spend it all on instruction, which is essentially salaries, but not administrators.
Are there any questions or comments?
I'm gonna say one last thing, because the other thing that was in there too that I want to be sure to point out, because this is what actually goes on the website. I also included in there our expenditures from this year that's ending now, 23-24. So, you know, what I just talked about was what we're gonna do next with next year's funds, but I also want to point out that we use this opportunity to let you know that how we spent current year's funds. And again, it was instruction. So that's why both of those are in there. If you notice, there's the 23-24 and the 24-25.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments or questions, is there a motion?
I move to approve the education protection account resolution and 2023-2024 EPA planned expenditures for Northern United Humboldt Charter Schools.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. 5.2, approval of education protection account resolution and 2023-2024 EPA planned expenditures for NUCS.
Same.
Oh,
Sorry. I got distracted for a second.
that's okay.
So you guys noticed, I'm sure, that on the last page of the resolution, it requires all of the board members' signatures.
Mhm.
That's the same for Humboldt and for Siskiyou. And then for Siskiyou, like I said, during the public hearing portion, we'll receive $23,282. We'll spend it on instructional salaries. And then for 23-24, again, $23,282, and we did spend it on instructionals.
Any questions or comments? And hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the educational protection account resolution and 2023-24 EPA planned expenditures for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also approve or agree, motion carries. Moving on to 5.3, approval of warrant distribution authorization form CS-1 and certification form CS-7 for NU Humboldt.
Okay, I'm sure you guys remember this. Every year, Humboldt County Office of Ed, and in the next agenda item, Siskiyou County Office of Education, asks us who can sign payroll, approve payroll, and who can approve the warrants, and then also who can pick them up. So when the checks are ready at the county office. So that's what this certification is. This one is for Humboldt County Office of Ed. And what this is saying is that Kelly and I are the ones who can approve payroll and warrants. And then the other form, that's what the CS-7 says. CS-1 is who can pick payroll up and who can pick warrants up. And that is me and Kelly and Evelyn and Linda Speck. And Linda Speck currently has been doing payroll. Evelyn has been doing accounts payable. But Evelyn is actually shifting to taking payroll on as well. So that we put both of them on as picking them up, but just Kelly and I are signing.
Any questions or comments? And hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the warrant distribution authorization form CS1 and certification form CS7 for Northern United Humboldt Charter School.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. 5.4, approval of certification of signatures for NUCS.
Okay, so this is essentially the same idea. This says who can sign contracts, payroll, that kind of thing, or approve it. And so that again is Kelly and I. And they don't require the form about who can pick up, it's just who can sign.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the certification of signatures for Northern United SISQ.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. 5.5, approval of 2024-25 consolidated application for funding for NU Humboldt.
Okay. All right, well, again, I know you guys have seen this, you see it twice a year. This is what we refer to as the Con App, but the consolidated application is the application that we complete to receive federal funding for specific federal funding, I guess, Title I, Title II, Title IV, I don't know, whatever titles we get, all those titles. Which are all federal dollars, and every year we have to fill out an application that states, that's asking for us to receive the ones that we qualify for. And at this point, it's just the application is the application for funding, and then later on in the year, there's some more parts that happen at that time, but this is the application for 24-25.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2024-25 consolidated application for funding for Northern United Humboldt.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. 5.6, approval of 2024-25 consolidated application for funding for NUCS.
Okay, and this is the same thing. This is the application for the federal title dollars for SISQ.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2024-25 consolidated application for funding for Northern United SISQ Charter School.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also approve, motion carries. 5.7, approval of Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report for NU Humboldt.
All right. So Proposition 28, the Art and Music in Schools funding, Prop 28 was a proposition that was voted on in 2022. And it is specifically for schools to use. This is one of those restricted funds. It's restricted to any kind of art or music education. And it has to be new spending, so it's supplement, not supplant. And if you are a charter school or a district in the LEA of over 500, you're required to spend 80% of it on new staff. But because we're under 500, we don't have that requirement. But so every year we'll have, as part of this funding is every year we'll have to do a report, a fiscal report that we'll bring here to the board that says like how much of the money that year we spent and what we spent it on. So this is our first report to do. Because 23-24 was the first year that we received the money. And in Humboldt, we didn't spend any in this year of these funds, but we have plans to spend them next year. I don't know when we got them. We got them pretty late in the year. Do you remember what month we got them?
They started them as part of the apportionment, so we got a small amount.
Okay.
But we don't get the total.
Until the end, yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Oh, maybe I should have probably said too, in Humboldt, it's 52,653 is what we're given to spend.
Can you share what the plan is?
Yeah, I think in Humboldt, it's gonna be mostly supplies, like art supplies. Any kind of, music instruments, things like that.
Will it be equally divided between the arts and music?
I don't know if it'll be that. I think what it's gonna be is proportionally divided for each center, like the number of students for each center. That's what Kelly and I had talked about, is like giving each center the breakdown of what they get.
Right.
And then they can decide if they're spending it on art or music, because each center has some centers have all the music equipment they could possibly want already, or like Cut and Learning Center, for example, they get to come over here and have Debbie's art classes. And so maybe they wouldn't want to spend on art, so each center will do something a little different.
And getting off topic a little bit, speaking of Debbie, and her fantastic little creations, when I came in today, I asked her about the fair. And she said that she's thinking about entering. She's had some students do some creative work that she might enter for them.
Well, and she's having art classes over the
Yes.
summer, as she
Yes.
does every summer, and so
Good for her.
yeah, she's done that before.
All right, any other questions?
No.
And hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report for Northern United Humboldt.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
and I also agree. Motion carries. 5.8, approval of Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report for NUCS.
Okay, so this is the same situation. Siskiyou received $21,905, but this year in 23-24, we did spend some of it in Siskiyou. Mount Shasta, in Mount Shasta, we contracted with a retired music teacher. Do you guys remember seeing like in the Siskiyou board reports about that gingerbread play musical that happened? That was that retired music teacher came and worked with the students weekly, I think twice, maybe twice a week, either once a week or twice a week, I don't remember which. And so that was part of how the money was spent. And then like, I don't know, almost 5,000 or so was spent, something like that. And then, next year, we'll spend, again, breaking it up proportionally between the centers. Siskiyou County Office of Ed, in anticipation of this funding and schools needing to, utilize this money, they actually hired an art teacher at the county office there. And so we've contracted a certain number of days for that teacher to work with our students there. So that will be part of how it's spent.
Will
And then
the
also supplies.
retired music teacher be returning?
So, yeah, we would like for him to, but I don't think he's going to. Oh. And I don't, was he his grandpa? Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking he was a family member.
Aha. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
and I also agree. Motion carries. 5.9, approval of lease agreement for 2120 Campton Road, Eureka, NU Humboldt Cutton Resource Center.
Okay, so this is the lease for, which one are we on? We're on, CRC.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's for here. This lease is the one for here. And, there was no increase. They kept it the same price as what it has been. And this is a 2-year lease agreement. So next year and the following year, there will be no increase in our rent here. So, yeah. It was nice.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve the lease agreement for 2120 Campton Road, Eureka, Northern United Humboldt Charter School, CRC.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
and I also agree. Motion carries. 5.10, approval of lease agreement for 2020 Campton Road, Eureka, NU Humboldt Cutton Learning Center.
Okay, and this one is the one across the street, and there was an increase, but also, we're, using additional space. So what happened is, you guys might remember, there has been a preschool, like a for-profit preschool, unrelated to us, unrelated to the church, that has been leasing one of the rooms over there as a preschool forever. So she retired at the end of this year, and so we asked if we could take that classroom space on. So yes, it's an increase, but it's because we got an additional room. So it's an increase of $700 a month for that additional room. And it's, we are having that room become the TKK classroom. It has a bathroom inside the room. And then it also has like a playground area, fenced off playground area on the side of it. And so we received this year, again, some restricted funds, some TK funding to help us, kind of boost the our TK program. And so since we have that room now, we've done quite a few things in there already. We put in one of those teeny tiny little toilets. It's adorable. And then, all the supplies, equipment, furniture that you could imagine for a little TKK space. And then we've had a playground consultant come out, to give us a quote on doing playground equipment over there. The playgrounds that are on school campuses are specifically designed for 5 and up. TK is not allowed on it. And so you have to have special playground equipment that's for like 2 to 5 year olds. And so that's what we're gonna put in over on the side. And then it will be available for the kindergarten, TK and kindergarten students to use.
Do you have to do any, groundwork,
Yes.
so to speak, to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
area?
We do, and there are options. I think we're gonna opt for the wood chips. You have the option of a certain number of inches of wood chips, or there's also like this foam kind of stuff that they pour, almost like concrete, but it's like a rubber mat that they pour. And that area, if you know, is really shady. It is a wet spot. It's under a bunch of redwoods. It's on the like dark side of the building. And I really think that the rubber would get a layer of like mold, or just be super slippery. And I think it wouldn't drain well. But also I think the rubber is more expensive, but if it were a different circumstance, I would be fine with that. We do have these TK funds for things like this. But knowing that, this is a space we lease, we don't own it.
Sure.
And, this 2-year or this lease that we just signed or are looking at right now, I guess, we didn't just sign it, or, you guys are hopefully approving it right now. It says in the lease that if they decide they want that room back, they'll give us a 2-year notice. And the wood chips, according to our playground consultant, last about 2 years before they get, before you have to kind of replace them, add to them. And so we thought, and it's, a lot less expensive. And so we thought, well, let's just do that and, see how that goes. But we're getting a quote for both, but I think the wood chips are probably what we're gonna end up with. And yeah, they're gonna have to dig down somewhat because the layer, it has to be a certain number of inches thick. And there's like concrete or like a concrete walkway, so they have to dig down so that the top of the wood chips is in alignment with the concrete walkway that's there. So yeah, there will be some groundwork. The playground person we're working with they're a company out of Reading, but they're the ones that have done all the playgrounds around here. So they just completed the playground at Pine Hill. And then they also are doing Blue Lake right now. Like the day they were at Blue Lake is the day they came out to us to give us a quote. And they basically work as the contractor, like the lead contractor, and then they sub out the people who do like the wood chips and stuff. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. So we're just waiting on a quote from him. And my hope is that we can get it done in the summer, but we'll see.
Are the wood chips gonna be natural in color, or are you gonna get colored ones?
I would prefer natural. We'll see what the quote is.
Why, you don't want red? Green?
I know they do the rubber chips too,
Cool.
so we'll see what happens. I don't know. There's pros and cons to all of it, As a teacher, I feel like the wood chips are a pain because the kids drag them in, they get stuck to their clothes and, it's, there's pros and cons to all of it, but I think it'll drain a lot better and won't be
Oh, sure.
slippery.
Yeah, I could just envision kind of a thin layer of
Definitely.
scum.
Moss.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
That's
See,
what
they
happens.
Yeah.
I know.
You know,
That happens on your wooden deck.
yeah,
You know.
on the north side,
Yeah.
in the shade,
In the
Yeah.
under the
shade.
trees, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so sorry, that was a tangent. but
That's all right.
Lots
That's
of,
okay.
lots of fun stuff happening in that
That's
TK room right now. We hired new staff, a new teacher for that room, and she has completely gutted it and repainted. I think she finished the painting today. She has been over there and her family members, with a whole lot of people over there every day. Yeah, it's been,
Well, she's invested in it.
Yes,
That's-
she is.
That's what we like.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the lease agreement for 2020 Campton Road, Eureka, Northern United Humboldt, CLC. Oh wait, did I say the wrong one? No, that's right.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Melissa? Brian?
Aye.
Jerry?
I,
And I also agree, motion carries. 5.11, approval of NUCS school director contract for 2024 through 2027. And I want to update everyone. We talked a lot about this, and I thank everyone for all the hard work, the contributions, and I think that our end product is something that we not only like, but Sherry does as well. And so I will highlight first off, under contract term number 1, it will change, and from July, let me see here. Hang on. I didn't do that, which I should have. It's going to,
July 1st, 2024.
no, I have that, the old one. Oh, well.
Okay.
The new contract will be July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027. Moving on to compensation, line number 3, or item number 3. The salary has increased to $130,000 annually, which breaks down to $590.91 daily rate. Number 4, there is a wording change from renegotiated any increase to increased any change. Moving on to evaluation, number 36, it says, board shall evaluate school director in each year utilizing the process set forth in paragraphs 37 through 43 inclusive. That is now changing to board shall evaluate school director in April of each year. Number 37, during the August board meeting of each year, the board and school director shall meet to establish and write charter schools goals for the school year based on the board and school director recommendation and LCAP. That is now changing to, by the conclusion of the October board meeting of each school year, the evaluation process will be mutually agreed upon by the board and school director. Number 38 stated at the September board meeting of each year, the school director will provide the board with an action plan for the purpose of the meeting, or for the purpose of meeting the charter school goals. Process on these goals will be addressed at each board meeting. It's changing now to read, failure of the board to complete the evaluation process does not constitute a material breach of the contract and shall not result in the amendment or extension of the contract. Failure of the board to evaluate school director shall not preclude the board from giving notice of termination or non-renewal in accordance with paragraphs 39 through 50 inclusive. Failure of the board to evaluate school director shall constitute a positive evaluation. Items number 39 through 43 have all been eliminated. Renumbering of the following items, 44 through 71 now becomes 39 through 67. Are there any questions or comments?
I think you're required to say what my compensation is, like, I think that's the thing that you have to say. And so I know you said the salary, but like, you didn't say the medical benefits or the cell phone stipend or the accent, like, that's the piece that you have to say, not all the changes, but just what my compensation is. So I listed all those in the board, background sheet, if you wanna just state those.
I would love to do that. It
Has to stand.
Oh, good, because
Has to
I
stand.
can't get on either.
Oh,
Well,
the last section there,
Oh, yes,
like,
okay.
that's my compensation, that's what I think has to publicly be
Right.
stated when my
number
contract
of
is.
days.
Okay.
Compensation, fringe benefits.
Thank you. So I'm just reading the financial implications.
Well, those
correct?
are the things that are all the compensation.
Yes. Okay, 130,000 is the annual salary. Full coverage of medical, the Spruce plan, dental, D30 plan, and vision C plan. AXA membership dues and $480 a year for a cell phone stipend. And can I pass this now to Linda?
Sure.
Thank you.
The,
Do you think she needs to say the number of days too? 220 days?
The work year is 220 days. You're responsible for your share of contributions to STRS. You'd be reimbursed for necessary expenses, including mileage, etc. Your AXA dues will be paid.
That was on there.
Your sick leave, 12 days per year. Your and district will provide release time and related expenses for professional development.
We are so transparent.
Yes.
We're telling everybody everything.
Everything. Well, being that that was so very choppy, I hope that we all are on the same page and understand what has changed or remaining the same in the contract. Are there any questions or comments? And hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the Northern United Charter Schools School Director Contract for 24-25 through 26-27 school.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Melissa?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I also agree, motion carries. Moving on to reports, 6.1 enrollment and attendance report was in our packet. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, 6.2 is the financial report for NU Humboldt and NU Siskiyou. Any, which was also in our packet. Any comments or questions? And hearing none, we'll move on to 6.3, Director's Report.
Okay, well, we're winding down the school year, just days left of this fiscal year. We had a lot of successful graduations, both in Humboldt and Siskiyou. There are some administration changes for next year. We had a couple staff members this year receive their admin credentials. Two that I could think of in Humboldt and one in Siskiyou. In Siskiyou County, Colleen Allen will be director, as will Kirk. And then in Humboldt County, Sarah Schaefer received her admin credential, and so she will be a director as well. And speaking of, tomorrow we have an admin meeting and then it'll be the first time that the new admin will be joining us. We're still filling a few positions in both schools. We've filled a lot already, but we're kind of down to the last several. We have a couple instructional aides positions still to fill in Humboldt, and secretary, and then in Siskiyou, we have a secretary position available still. But that's about it. I think also still an English teacher in Humboldt. We're doing interviews on next Friday. This Friday. We're doing interviews on Friday for some of those positions. So that's all kind of coming together. Feel pretty good about that. I think almost all the work agreements for all of our employees, all our returning employees, have been passed out, and a big chunk of them have already been signed and returned. We have staff members right now at the Avid Summer Institute. I mentioned that we received a few competitive grants in both schools. In Humboldt, we received the Certified Wellness Coach Employment Support Grant, which is for $295,185. In Siskiyou, we received the Golden State Pathway Grant, and that was about $254,000. And then both schools received the Community School Implementation Grant. In Humboldt, that's a little over $1 million, 1.1875. For 5 years, and in Siskiyou, it's $712,500 for 5 years. So a lot of additional funding based on grants that we have written and received. The Certified Wellness Coach Grant in Humboldt, that's like a mental health support grant that is to train staff in becoming certified wellness coaches, which is kind of like, I would say, a counselor light. Helping staff members with their education in being able to support students with their social emotional well-being. The Golden State Pathway in Siskiyou, that is going to help support our academic counselor in Siskiyou, as well as help us develop a new CTE program there for building trades. In Humboldt, we've been having a building trades program, but we're starting one in Siskiyou, and that's going to help fund that. And then, the community school implementation grants that we already had the community school planning grants in both schools. And now we got the full implementation grant in both schools. So that's exciting to have all of those extra resources for the next several years. And then the last thing that I just wanted to remind you guys of is that I'm going on vacation, July 3rd through the 19th. And so I'm setting a vacation responder on my email, letting people know that, my internet and cell phone won't always be, super on it, and plus a time zone difference. And so anyway, I'm just reminding you guys that I'll be kind of out of pocket from the 3rd to the 19th. And that's all.
All right. 6.4 is Northern United Humboldt school report that was in our packet. Rebecca is here. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, our FFA group was at the Romanicus Fair that just happened, and little Dino auctioned off or sold his cow. And they had lots of pigs and guinea pigs and rabbits, so. Irina, the president for last school year, won some, and she had a competition and she won. So.
And I'm gonna say how nice it is to have Rebecca
Yeah.
here during this meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Any questions or comments for Rebecca?
I want to say one other thing about in the Humboldt report here. One of the positions we're still looking for, in case anybody knows of anybody, is an FFA advisor. Kathy Shermer really doesn't, she will do it if there's nobody else because she's, it's so important. But FFA advisors now are required to have CTE credentials
no, it's.
or an agriculture endorsement on their credential if they're, a secondary teacher. And she just really, we have a grace period right now since we're establishing our chapter. And so that's why she has been able to be the advisor this year. And we actually, I think, have the grace period for 3 years. Is that right? I think it's 3 years they give you to kind of get up and running. But so that's one of the positions we have posted that we haven't found yet is an FFA advisor. And it's a lot of work. It's the person would be a teacher as well for, some of the ag science classes, but being the advisor takes, a lot of work. So that's, if anybody knows anybody, send them our way. We have a posting on HCOE's website for it.
Well, my credentials expired a long time ago and I don't have the
CTE, yeah.
It's,
But you might know somebody. Or Carol might know somebody.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Put your
true.
feelers out, is what you're saying.
Yes, put your feelers out.
That's
Any comments or questions for Rebecca?
I would just like, as I sit here and look at the report and reflect back on years back, you've come such a long way you've come such a long way with presenting these reports, and I don't know if they were done the prior incarnation of us or not, but I can remember in the beginning, just it's more or less a report, and then slowly and surely pictures. I mean, now it's just full blown and
Color pictures.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the old cliche, a picture says 1,000 words, and it's just wonderful, and it's just part of so many other things, little details, the devil's in the details of how far fabulous example of that.
Jerry, you're so good at recognizing that, like the small successes and like the little bit, they're just a richer and richer program each year.
And piggybacking on what Jerry is saying, kudos to go to Kirk as well, because his reports have evolved as well in color, and you two knock it out of the park. We really appreciate that. And little sidebar note about the Avid field trip. My grandson went on that and thoroughly enjoyed himself. He was also featured as the HESI representative, so to speak, this year. And he is about a week and a half into that, and really every day we talk at the end of the day about what he has experienced, and really an outstanding program.
Yeah,
Quite a few of our students got internships. One of Rebecca's sons got an
Yes.
internship too.
Yeah.
At the
At the
HCA.
Yes.
When I as I was coming, I'm sorry, can I say that?
Sure.
As I was coming in, one of our graduates, Andrew Paul, he lives around the corner, he was riding his bike, so he came and talked to me. And he got his hydroponics internship, so that means he gets to go back next year, even though he's graduated and be there. Yeah, that's exciting.
Cool.
And one other thing that I'd like to say on a personal note, every time I see your guy, he will always give me a hug and ask how I am. Yes. Moving on to 6.5, which is the SISQ report that is in our packets. Kirk, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, everything's there.
Do we have any questions or comments for Kirk?
Just wonderful pictures, you know, graduation and, you know, all of that, so. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely, guys. Great team. Moving on to 6.6, which is the board report. Melissa, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think I just want to say thank you guys all staff and board members for such a good year and working so hard to make this such a great school for all of our students. And I also wanted to just give a shout out to Dawn and just say that we'll miss her and thank you for all the years that you've helped all the alternative kids to make it through school and flourish and thrive in life.
Thank you. You're here. Brian, you have anything?
Oh, the only thing I want to say is that, positives, I'm all about growth. I'm looking forward to seeing the school district grow and make some good positive changes into the future.
Thank you. Jerry?
I apologize in advance for not being able to attend tomorrow. And sorry, it was a little bit late, today. But I just wish everybody a safe and healthy summer. And we'll gather together again in August.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. I had a phone meeting with our auditor yesterday, went very well. Asked maybe a half a dozen questions at the most and short and sweet. So hopefully that will be an indicator of what their final audit is going to be. I had 2 graduates this year, 2 of my grandsons, and I attended both of them. The behind the scenes work to make those graduations happen, it was just amazing. Tim did his magic as he always does. 4 of the graduates from high school started in kindergarten together at Lafayette. And 2 of them, my Nick and Shoki, actually started in preschool together. And to be the presenter, not only for my grandson's friends, but especially for him, was just an honor of a lifetime.
You got a lot of hugs, Rosemary, from those boys.
A lot, just very, very touching. And finally, being that I thought we would be all together. I didn't remember that Brianna was not going to be here, but I'd like to also thank my fellow board members. We've had a good year, a fun year, very, very productive. And reflecting back, we've done an awful lot and we really do make a difference. And so thank you very much. And moving on to our next board meeting, possible agenda items.
We have the board self-evaluation in August.
Uh-huh.
We have starting the process of figuring out what my evaluation will be. We're gonna have the first reading of several policies. We'll have the independent study policy that's required to be adopted every year, before the start of school. Those are the things that I know of off the top of my head for August.
7.2, our next board meeting, which will be tomorrow. Jerry has a plane to catch. I'm not sure what Melissa has, but I'm sure that it's going to be enjoyable. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And we will see a couple of us tomorrow. I will adjourn the meeting at 5:35.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
almost wasn't gonna be here tomorrow. My wife had a.
Good job.